short one. Earlier today, the Community Development Block Grant Committee met at Borough Hall and discussed the 2018-2019 proposals for funding certain programs through the Community Development Block Grant. The Community Development Block Grant Committee will be holding a public meeting in these chambers next Tuesday at 5 p.m. for the purpose of making official funding recommendations to the Borough Council. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
A few weeks for town. On January 25th, just 9 days after we presented him right here with a plaque for the 2018 MLK Humanitarian Awards, Harry Pangemanan entered sanctuary at the Reformed Church of Highland Park for fear of being detained by officers from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. ICE had visited Harry's house that morning to detain him. Harry, who's lived in the United States since 1993 and who has 2 citizen children in the Highland Park Public Schools, is not a criminal and has been an invaluable member of the community. And so over the next few days, the community poured out, and we spent time with Harry, Arthur Jemmy, and Johannes Tasik, all of whom are Indonesian Christians who have taken refuge at the church out of fear of being sent back to their country and facing near certain persecution. The next few days were a whirlwind as neighbors, friends, my colleagues on council, and I, and even Congressman Frank Pallone and Governor Phil Murphy visited Highland Park to make sure these men were cared for and safe. Then last Friday, we received some hopeful news. Thanks to the hard work of the ACLU and the Reverend Seth Capperdale, we got word that a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order that prevents the government from executing deportation orders against Harry, as well as Robbie Sanger and Gunawan Liam, who are in the Essex County Detention Facility and were detained that same morning on January 25th. Only Harry was able to seek sanctuary. The other 2 were actually detained. They're Metuchen residents. While dropping their children off at school, despite never having missed check-ins with ICE. While it's been reported that those in sanctuary are free to return home, it's also important to note that they can still be detained, as they could before. They just can't be deported right now. Regardless of where anyone stands on the immigration issue, rounding up community members without notice using years-old removal orders instills fear in our communities and shakes us to our core. Our kids go to school with their kids. We work with them and we pray with them, and there's no question that no matter where you stand on this issue, what's happening here is in many ways wrong, and in all ways very, very difficult for the community to digest. In the meantime, we have the courts who can determine that these individual cases represent a violation of the Fifth Amendment right to due process, which is what the ACLU based its restraining order request on. And thanks to the ACLU, our neighbors could have the opportunity to argue their case for asylum, as U.S. law prohibits removal of people who would face likely persecution or torture, as is the case of Christian Indonesians of Chinese descent if they would if they re-entered Indonesia. As a community, we enact policies on the local level. Anybody can remember that we had a big discussion last year on this issue. And we provide comfort and we try to instill a sense of normalcy for our neighbors while advocating on their behalf and working with the organizations whose task it is to defend them from justice. So stay tuned, stay active, please, and just keep creating awareness on this issue and educating people on this heavily nuanced issue. It's not just DACA, it's not just Indonesian refugees. There are so many layers to immigration that we need to really understand in order to address these issues head on.
Our way. Councilwoman Foster Dublin is not here, so I'm giving you a little update on our teen center. In case you haven't noticed, the cement has been poured, and so we are still on target for a fall opening of the center. She will be working with the schools to put together a group of teens that will advise on how to decorate the place, what to name it. They'll work with her and some of the police officers on programming, and they are also going to continue working with Brick Township, who they recently opened their first teen center, which is basically the same size as ours, and so they're learning from their experience.
be answered, because I did get the message about the daytime burglaries and everything.
Okay.
And it's been the same thing like it was over the summer, just now in the winter. I don't know how many there were, but is there a way that we could, and I'm glad you're here, Chief, if there's a way we could maybe, get more cops on patrol, like on foot, maybe if we can have cameras, have like a neighborhood watch program, if that's possible?
We have.
Because
As far as the neighborhood watch program, we'd be happy to start one if we can get enough people interested. Several years ago, we tried doing that, and we had very little interest, so we were unable to get it off the ground. But if you're interested in that, contact Lieutenant Panicella, and if we can get, we need more than you, but if we could get people in the neighborhood or any of the neighborhoods, we'd be happy to follow up with that. The best thing I could tell you in the interim is what we tell you on Nixle. If anyone sees anything that they think is suspicious, please call. Many times we get called like a week later. They didn't think anything of it at the time. A week later doesn't do us a lot of good. So if anyone sees anything that they think is out of the ordinary, better safe than sorry, call the police department. We will check it out. But thank you.
Why don't we also, when is your next public safety meeting, Chief?
It's not scheduled at this point, but I'm sure it'll be shortly.
Okay, so at the next public safety meeting, could you discuss with your committee a neighborhood watch? And then if the committee thinks that's a good way to go, we can help you advertise for it, so maybe you'd get more
Sure.
respondents?
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, thank you.